ọ̀dọ́ tá a jọ ń káàkiri ọ̀dọ́jọ́ ni wá ẹ má jẹ́ kí a fi àyè gba Fúlàní lórí ilẹ̀ àwọn bàbá wa ẹ má jẹ́ ká bú ọba mọ́ ẹ má jẹ́ ká bú jòyè mọ́ nígbà tá a la fẹ́ jà fún àwọn ọ̀rẹ́ wa táwa ń kọ́kọ́ ń bú ọba tá à ń bú jòyè èmi náà ṣe bẹ́ẹ̀ rí bó mo pera mi padà ẹ má jẹ́ ká bú àgbààgbà kankan mọ́ ẹ má bolóṣèlú kankan ẹ̀rù kálukú ń bẹ̀rù wọn ò lè sọ̀rọ̀ ọba ò lè sọ ìjòyè lè sọ ẹ jẹ́ ká ronú ẹ má jẹ́ ká bá àwọn bàbá jà mọ́ ẹ má jẹ́ bú wọn mọ́ ẹ má jẹ́ àṣẹ wọn àwọn ará pẹ̀lú wọn àwọn àgbà tó bá jó lóṣèlú tá a bá fẹ́ kọ́ wọn rẹ̀ wá lọ́wọ́ á gbé wọn mọ́ra á gbé wọn mọ́ra ni à ní bú wọn mọ́ ẹ má jẹ́ àṣejẹ̀gbọ́n ẹ má jẹ́ àdàlúrú a lè gba ẹ̀tọ́ wa láì ṣèjẹ̀gbọ́n a lè gba ẹ̀tọ́ wa láì yìnbọn a lè gba ẹ̀tọ́ wa láì dàlúrú gbogbo protest mo ṣe ní ìlú Nàìjíríà mi ò rí ibi tí mo ti ẹnìkan lè sọ pé mo pààyàn tàbí mo jó nǹkan náà tàbí mo bà nǹkan jẹ́ mo lọ písù torí pé olówó lèmi náà tí ò bá sólówó lára ń dì mọ́ gbogbo nǹkan tó lọ́n fún yẹn lọ́lọ́run fún mi mi ṣe tálákà tó dé pé mo dìde fún jà Yorùbá big man ni mi àwọn tó jẹ́ ọ̀rẹ́ mi tó súnmọ́ mi tó ní owó ní kí ni mo wá lọ bẹ̀ pé sọ́wọ́ ni mò ń fẹ́ ni kí n sọ yìí tí mo fẹ́ mo ní ìsọ̀rọ̀ owó àní ọ̀rọ̀ ìran mi ni mò ń sọ kí n wọ gbowó kí n gbéra kí n pé mò ń lọ ọ̀dọ̀ ọba àgbowó mò ń lọ ọ̀dọ̀ oníbodè òfin gbowó kí n kójó wọlé kọ́kàn mi balẹ̀ kí n dá wa mọ́tò kí n mọ́ rìn bọ̀ kí Fúlàní mọ́ da mi dúró ń títì kí n délé kí bàbá sọ pé kí n gbé tírélà sùn kí n mọ́ gbé lọ àwọn bàbá wo lè lóko mọ́ wọn ò lè lódò ẹ jẹ́ ká fọwọ́sowọ́pọ̀ ká ti àwọn bàbá wa lẹ́yìn ká dá security ti wá lẹ̀ ká sọ fún wọn kí wọ́n bá wa fọwọ́ tì í ká lé wọn kó nu oko wa ẹ ṣé mo dúpẹ́ Jésù Olúwa wa.
Koikimedia, we're bringing the world closer to your doorstep.
Koikimedia, 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 we bringing the world closer to your doorstep.
Koikimedia, 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 we bringing the world closer to your doorstep.
Àwa sálára àgbà yìí dá, àwa ló láṣà àti èdè. Gbígbédè lárugẹ nílẹ̀ Oòduà o, àwa gangan ni bàbá.
Koikimedia, 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 we bringing the world closer to your doorstep.
They never sabi wetin we carry for her.
But they move closer before them to sabi.
I said they never know wetin we carry for body.
But they move closer before them to sabi.
Ọ̀kín lọ lọ́jà ẹyẹ, kìnìún ló ló lajú.
Ẹyẹ tó lórí kodò bí àdán, ọ̀pẹ̀jẹ̀ lẹ́nu.
Ká ṣiṣẹ́ fún ilẹ̀ bàbá wa, ká ṣiṣẹ́ fún ìlú bàbá wa, ká jùmọ̀ sowọ́pọ̀ ká lè tó Odùduwà.
Odùduwà kò bá lè gbé wá.
Ọmọ Odùduwà ṣe gírí, ẹ dìde fún ẹ̀tọ́ adúláwọ̀, ká lè jọ jùmọ̀ gbé délẹ̀ ìlérí, ká wálé gba ògo ilẹ̀ wa, ká ṣiṣẹ́ ká lè jọ gbàdé, ká lè gbàdé adé adúláwọ̀, àwa ni mọ̀lẹ̀ tí yóò tàn káàkiri.
Ọmọ Odùduwà ni wá.
Koikimedia, àwa là ń gbé tó lárugẹ.
Ètò tó pọ̀jù owó tí wàá mọ̀ ní.
Kásá ẹgbẹ́ polówó ọjà wá kájé bùgbà yín jẹ.
Ètò tó pọ̀jù owó tí wàá mọ̀ ní.
À ń gbé tó lárugẹ, à ń gbàsà lárugẹ.
Ètò tó pọ̀jù owó tí wàá mọ̀ ní.
News and sports ẹ máa rí gbọ́.
Ètò tó pọ̀jù owó tí wàá mọ̀ ní.
Ọmọ Ìjẹ̀bú alárẹ̀ mi ló ní kí n máa ké tantan. Koikimedia ọ̀rọ̀ lágbájúmọ̀ mi o, máa bá ṣẹ̀rẹ̀ lọ o. Ọmọ Yorùbá nìyẹn, ọmọ Yorùbá tata o. À ń gbádùn rẹ, ọmọ Ìjẹ̀bú alárẹ̀ mi, ṣẹ́yìn ló máa fi dìbò tẹ̀ mọ́lẹ̀ o. Ẹ̀yin lọ́mọ onígbò máa ń dé máa dé máa dé, ẹ̀yin lọ́mọ onígbò máa wọ̀ máa wọ̀ máa wọ̀ o. Igbó máa wọ̀ tájòjì ò gbọ́dọ̀ wọ̀, àjòjì tó bá wọ̀ bẹ́ẹ̀ á tẹ̀lé ní ẹbọra. ni lọ máa náwó kóyìnbó tó dé ìgbà tó yìnbó dé o owó náà dẹ́ tún pọ̀ sí o Koikimedia ṣàwa ni bàbá. Koikimedia àwọn ni bàbá. Koikimedia àwọn ni bàbá. Àdáńtọ́ àtúnpèrègèdè. Koikimedia àwọn ni bàbá. Àwa là ń gbé tò lárugẹ jẹ́ ká jọ gbọ́ o. Koikimedia àwọn ni bàbá. Àtúnjà fẹ́tọ̀ ilẹ̀ wa fẹ́tọ̀ ilẹ̀ Yorùbá. Koikimedia àwọn ni bàbá. Ọmọ Òdùwà ni wá o tọkàntọkàn. Koikimedia àwọn ni bàbá. Ikú tí ó ṣe bí lébi òsì àdìmú bàbá iyọ̀. Koikimedia àwọn ni bàbá. We bring you up closer to your doorstep. Koikimedia àwọn ni bàbá. Afẹ́fẹ́ tó ń fẹ́ òòdùn kan kí oko lára ni. Koikimedia àwọn ni bàbá. Àpèrègèdè Olódùmarè ló fún wa ṣe. Koikimedia àwọn ni bàbá. Gbogbo ayé ẹ gbọ́ àwa ni bàbá o. Koikimedia àwọn ni bàbá. Ẹ máa bọ̀ wá ẹ gbé polówó ọjà yín wá o. Koikimedia àwọn ni bàbá. Odùduwà la gbé dání òtítọ́ la gbé dání. Koikimedia àwọn ni bàbá. A kì í sọ̀dálẹ̀ a kì í sọdí kẹta. Koikimedia àwọn ni bàbá. Àdúró tán àtúnpèrègèdè. Koikimedia àwọn ni bàbá. Koikimedia we bring you up closer to your doorstep. Àwọn ni bàbá. Koikimedia is around.
To give us latest.
Is around o.
To give us latest.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Ẹ mú kalẹ̀ sílẹ̀, ẹ tẹ́tí ẹ gbọ́ ètò tó bójú gbogbo.
ladies and gentlemen,
Ẹ mú kalẹ̀ sílẹ̀, ẹ tẹ́tí ẹ gbọ́ ètò tó bójú gbogbo.
Koikimedia is around.
To give us.
And we welcome you to our transmission coming from Koikimedia, bringing the world closer to your doorstep. There's a lot happening around the world, and it is important that we keep you up to date of what is happening somewhere in Africa, East Africa precisely, Kenya. Looking at my headline and my topic this afternoon, whatever is happening in Kenya is the right of the citizen to demand changes and to ask for their right under the Constitution. And sometimes, as we know, the agenda of the West against the African youth is no longer working because they've been able to manipulate and fight us with all kind of means. But this time around, there is a lot changing, and this is happening very, very fast. We saw the Niger, we saw Burkina Faso, and it looks like Kenya is going down. Kenya, as we know, is a country that I'll be giving you a bit of the background. My name is OLAYOMI KOIKI, and I welcome you to this transmission from London, where we're actually coming from at exactly coming up to 2100 hours, 25th of June 2024. Please share the program and invite as many of your friends to learn something different and something much more important as regard to the development of what is happening somewhere in East Africa. Kenya is a very beautiful place, just as many countries across Africa. But it seems that Kenya, a country in East Africa, it has a coastline on the Indian Ocean. It encompasses savanna, lakeland, dramatic, a beautiful wildlife where you can see the lions, elephant, and rhinos from Nairobi, the capital, and you can visit the safari. But something is always something that can make you to wonder why we were all in this mess. Let me first remind everyone that Kenya achieved its independence just 2 years after the Nigeria fraudulent independence in 1960. And as we know today, the Kenyans have now asked whether they've got independent or not. Many of us, many of us, as we know today, could not understand if every African truly got what we called a proper democracy. One thing we got to understand is that if we all look back to the way the West, the Europeans, decided to walk around Africa in the 1500, the 1600, and as they were using and making advantage of many of us through our leaders, our elders, as many Africans were shipped out of Africa into different part of Europe for slave trade. That went on for over 1,000 years. In between that line, our culture was destroyed, our heritage were tampered with. But something that was mostly tampered with is our true identity. Our identity collapsed because the Europeans that came into Africa knew that should we continue to stick to one identity and then our culture and religion, they might not be able to conquer us. So this afternoon, I just want to take you up to speed of the development of what is happening in a country known as Kenya that got their independence in 1960. They gained their independence on the December 12, 1963. Literally 3 years after Nigeria, and almost 3 more years getting close to what could be the first civil war in Africa that was televised, known as the Biafra War. But the background and the history of Kenya today is almost the same problem that we encounter, because it was the British that also colonized Kenya. When did Kenya actually gain that independence from Britain? Did Kenya literally got independent from Britain? Did Nigeria actually got a true independence from Britain, or we have all been deceived for a very long time, and this is what is pushing the agenda of the Gen Z generation that are now asking questions that some of the puppets, like the Kenya president or the prime minister, like President Bola Tinubu, they are all puppets to the West. They are the puppet that the West is using against African countries today. Some countries have been able to pull out, like we saw when Niger pulled out of the ECOWAS, when Burkina Faso said they've had enough of the mess that the French has produced in their country. But the question is, would the Yoruba politician also come back home and realize that one day is for the thief or the whatever that means, but one day is going to be for the owner? We are the true indigenous people that own the territorial ground of Yoruba land. And if the African leaders might think that nothing can be done, that they have the police, they have the international backing, they have all the means to fight us, especially because that is the only thing they're good at. Push that agenda to make sure that we can be conquered through the fraudulent military and the security architect that they have produced using the British Empire. Because in Britain, when you go out for protest, nobody's shooting you with a live round ammunition. But in Africa, when you go on protest, you are likely to be killed. And I can confirm that as of today, 2 individuals have been killed by the Kenya police because of a peaceful protest. We saw the same thing during July 1st, 2021. It is coming up to almost some years when we all went to Ojota. And a young Nigerian, a Yoruba woman precisely, Jumoke Oyeleke. Jumoke Oyeleke had nothing to do with the peaceful rally that was being done as at the time. But because we have a criminal politicians and their agenda is to continue to listen to the Western puppets, just like Tinubu and the rest of them, Jumoke Oyeleke was killed by a Nigerian police bullet at the Yoruba Nation rally, according to the People's Gazette, on the October 17, 2022. But there was a coroner that was set up. The coroner asked the Inspector General of Police, a Fulani bastard, a Fulani that wants to destroy the Yoruba land, that also went with so many security to kill Oloyegbowo in the house, but he survived it. According to the coroner, asked the Inspector General of Police to fish out the officer. And you might think that we don't have the evidence to that. I have the evidence, and I'm going to prove that to you right now. Bear with me. But one thing many Yoruba people do not understand is that nobody will give you a freedom, but we are giving glory that Julian Assange is now free from the bail that he has now been free from Belmarsh prison after 1,902 days that he has been kept because he was speaking the truth to the power. As I speak to you right now, Julian Assange is still en route back to his home in Australia after some kind of deal was done. But one thing we need to understand is his freedom was taken away from him under what we call Wikipedia. But today, the Gen Z are sending strong message to the African leaders. We will come out for each one of you at the appropriate time. The Nigerian one is still in the freezer being cooled down. But by the time the heat that goes to 52 degrees, as the London is getting hot this afternoon, as I was coming back home, extremely hot. That hot weather is coming gradually to Nigeria as well, and the politician will not escape this. I have told you, some of them will run out of Nigeria without wearing their boxers. As I can show you right now, that is Jumoke Oyeleke. Jumoke Oyeleke was not even participating. She was not even involved in that peaceful rally. And let me make it very clear, especially those Yoruba people that comes out and say that when we come out, it was never a peaceful rally. Every rally that we held in Nigeria, in the Yoruba territory, were all peaceful under Professor Adebanji Akintoye, the leader of the Yoruba self-determination, also being managed by Dr. Sunday Igboho and many other like Comrade George Akinola and so many people that participated, and the chief imam of Yoruba land. But let me remind Yoruba people that a day of reckoning is also being pushed by the Yoruba to tell their politicians to listen and dialogue before it is too late. You will not be able to use your bullet, neither will you be able to use your gun to stop what is going to come to you at the appropriate time. Nobody wants violence, and as we've seen in the protests inside Kenya, it has been a very peaceful one until the police started using live ammunition, just as Jumoke Oyeleke was killed by a Nigerian taxpayer's money to buy the bullet that should have killed the Fulani terrorists. Rather, a Yoruba young woman was shot dead. And as we speak today, justice was never given to Jumoke Oyeleke. So I wonder, when people are coming out and shouting justice, justice for one particular person, where are every single one of you when we were asking for justice for Ori Ade Akin, rather, the young man that was shot dead at the last rally that we held at Ojota? None of you came out. So why then, as somebody was accusing me that we are not talking about justice for Mohbad? I am not looking for justice for Mohbad. I am still looking for justice for Jumoke Oyeleke, as I am looking for justice for Ayọ̀wọ́lá Bámiṣé. These are Yoruba people that were murdered right inside Lagos State for nothing. And yet, everybody has kept mute. But one thing we got to remind these African leaders, this is not the generation that the West were able to control us. We will be able to control the narrative because we are tired of the mess that you have created in Africa that has now turned every African that you must arrive in Europe before you become a successful individual. You must have a British passport before you become a successful person. You must have an Italian passport. I was in an Uber this morning, as many of you saw my video broadcast from a business district. As I was getting onto that Uber to get myself to the next destination, the Bangladesh driver, an elderly man, told me that he spent 5 years in Germany before he relocated again to Italy for another 12 years before he now got an Italian passport. That means he has literally spent almost 17 years of his life looking for an Italian passport because he couldn't get from the German. And as many of us, I might put myself in that same bracket. 15 years it took the British to recognize that I have the right to live here, even though I am also meant to be a Commonwealth citizen. A Commonwealth citizen is a shithole that many of you need to understand. There is nothing called Commonwealth because it does not have any value for you. Right in Nigeria doesn't have value for me, as I was living here since 24 years. Let me come back to the discussion. This is not a threat message, but it is just to bring the conscious awareness of the development that is pushing right now in Kenya. How long it will take, I don't know, but I can confirm that there are so many development that is happening. 2 people have been killed, but their Senate Assembly, just like the Abuja Senate Assembly, has now been invaded by the citizen. Long thing is, you might think that it is not going to happen in Nigeria. It is just loading. Your pastor cannot pray for that. Your imam cannot pray for that. Let's come back to Jumoke Oyeleke before I move swiftly, because I am very pressed with time, as we might have to come back for the second section of this broadcast, as I have a very urgent meeting to attend to in the next 25 minutes. But let me remind you, for those of you that are thinking that nothing will happen in Nigeria, 200% of things will happen, because as we speak right now, the insecurity, the food shortage, and many other reasons that many Nigerians are now asking. Jumoke Oyeleke was killed by the Nigerian police bullet at a Yoruba Nation rally. This is the outcome of a coroner. The coroner have now asked the Inspector General of Police to fish out the officer involved in the killing, so that to forestall further accidental killing. As I speak to you right now, the officer that killed Jumoke Oyeleke has not been fished out. The officer that killed the military security that killed our brother and our father, Alhaji Fatai and Adogon, at the house of Dr. Sunday Igboho, right as of today, they have not just told us who killed them, they have also removed the bodies. Their bodies have not been returned to us. You are making a push of what you might not be able to finish. We are telling you in advance, let us all come on the roundtable discussion before things goes the other way around, because nobody can stop what is about to happen in Africa. It is just the beginning. We will be free from the bondage of the West. We will be free from the shackles of the British, the Americans, the French, the Germans. We will be free from them. They will not determine our life. We will have to determine our life if we have to do whatever we need to do, and that is exactly what the Kenya are doing right now. Nigerians must wake up. This is not a joke. This is the time to act for your true identity. We are not Nigerians. Jonathan said so. 2014, that expiration has been done, and it is important that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu negotiate now before it is too late, because the danger is just being pushed for another day. Every day we wake up, you are just pushing that danger to the next day. Jumoke Oyeleke was not just massacre. We could not even find a final solution to who killed her. The coroner presiding over the inquest of Jumoke Oyeleke, who was killed during the 2021 July 3rd, 72 hours after Igboho was almost killed by the Nigerian government of President Muhammadu Buhari and the vice president as a Yoruba woman known as Yemi Osinbajo, short man devil. Last year Yoruba Nation rally in Lagos, this was when the inquest was giving us the background. The request is now that the police should be blamed for the death of this young woman. So when some of you are saying that you're looking for justice for Mohbad, let's find justice for Jumoke Oyeleke before I look for justice for Mohbad. Every one of us needs justice in that shit old zoological country called Nigeria. You are just going to push many Nigerians into what they might not want to do. We are warning you right now. Let us do the needful before it becomes very, very tough. Let me warn those of you that things might not change. Let me just quickly give you some of the preview of what is happening right now in Kenya. Let's first go on the CNN. The CNN knows how the game works. Nobody's coming to rescue you and talk about Yoruba Nation. I have told you that so many times, but so many of you does not want to accept the truth. As I speak to you right now, CNN is reporting on a regular basis on the right of the Kenya that has now been dispersed by the Olori Buruku, those bomb bastard Kenya politician being listened to by the puppet West. Let's listen to this. Once again, my name is OLAYOMI KOIKI. As I say, you are just making that freezer to become heat when that heat comes to every single one of us. It will affect you, it will affect me, but that is the fight for freedom. Julian Assange, many of you might not know who that is. Julian Assange that has been fighting for the freedom because of some of what he said. He has now been free after how many months and years? This is Julian Assange getting into that aircraft after almost 1,902 days that he was kept in the prison because he was doing what is meant to be done, because some of you idiots that should be doing the same thing refuse to do it, and then you continue to attack some of us that are doing it. Let me tell you, it is happening. It is going to happen very soon. Nobody will get a freedom without fighting for it. We will fight hard, using your voice, using your money, using your intellectual, using every goddamn thing that you have to make that push for the fight. Nobody wants you to be free, especially when Bill Gates is pushing out a GMO to kill Africans. It is time that Africa rise up, but the Yoruba people will rise up so that we can push that agenda within Africa. We are not shit-hole Nigerians. We are Yoruba people before Nigeria, and we will remain so until the last man standing. Let me remind you, this is how CNN, one of your trusted network, because you would rather pay CNN as Globalcom is doing than pay Koikimedia because you believe whatever is coming out from CNN. That is not the problem. But if you want CNN to continue to bring up what is happening in Nigeria, you would have to push the politician to the edge. And whatever that means to you, keep that to your pocket.
Breaking news.
And we do have some breaking news coming in. We're going to show you new pictures coming out of the Kenyan capital of Nairobi. What you're looking at right there is protesters have breached the Parliament building. Advanced, we're told, inside the building. There's also been tear gas and live rounds being fired by police as these protests have been unfolding. Let's get over to CNN's Larry Madowo. He's on the ground there. Larry, bring us up to speed. What are you seeing? What's happening?
Kate, we're outside Kenya's parliament, and protesters breached the wall of the National Assembly. This is what you see here that's broken down. And after that happened, we saw police using live rounds to fire at protesters who were largely unarmed. You still see them back there holding firearms. And this went on for several minutes. But protesters still did make their way inside Parliament, made their way inside the floor of Kenya's Parliament, and stole the mace. We saw them make out of the Parliament with the mace of the National Assembly. And they said if they pass this controversial finance bill, then they should sleep inside Parliament, referring to Kenya's lawmakers. It's been an extremely extraordinary scene here, with police battling protesters using water cannon and using tear gas, but the protesters kept pushing them back closer and closer. Their intention was to occupy Parliament. These mostly youth protesters had declared 7 days of rage, and today they had declared it a day of a total shutdown, and that's what you see here. You can still hear tear gas in the air, canisters getting fired repeatedly, but the protesters made it all this way. They burnt down this police truck here, which they only managed to put out a short while ago. But this is still the scene outside the National Assembly, with police, lots of them in the hundreds, trying to beat back the protesters. They retreat briefly, and then they make their way back here. And so that's been the sound of Nairobi all day. This blasts throughout the day. It has made it sound almost like a war zone, a heavily militarized response to what is essentially peaceful protest that's protected under the Kenyan Constitution, and that is the anger you see from the people here. We did see at least 2 bodies lying here on the floor, on the ground outside Parliament. We're waiting for an official police confirmation of how many people have been killed in this, how many people have been wounded, but CNN has seen 2 bodies lying on the floor, and this the sign of the dramatic day we've had outside Kenya's Parliament today, and this shows no signs of stopping. Kenya's Interior Ministry said all these protests have to end by 6:30 p.m. So we're about just under 3 hours away from that. But these people are determined, beating back police, bringing banners. They say they're peaceful protesters. All they want is for President William Ruto to listen to them and to avoid overtaxing them. Kate?
Yeah, and I want you to remind people what is at the core of these protests,
All right.
how it is escalated. So how it is escalated to this point. You also spoke with the half-sister of former President Barack Obama, who was there protesting.
That is right, and that was extraordinary because she generally stays away from politics, Obama. But today she said she needed to join these young people of Kenya who are protesting. I want you to listen to what she told me.
I'm here because look at what's happening. Young Kenyans are demonstrating for their rights. They're demonstrating with flags and banners. I can't even see anymore. They're being tear gassed. They're being tear gassed.
That was an extraordinary scene to see Obama out here on the street with these young people. We're back here on the street and you see the tear gas getting fired here. And so many of these protesters not intimidated by that. Some of what we hear sound like live rounds here outside Parliament. We're not exactly certain, but there's a distinctive sound between what is tear gas and what is live ammunition. And we have seen police use live ammunition here, using rifles and AK-47s. And protesters saying, we are peaceful, stop shooting us.
So that is the update coming from the report, according to the CNN. There's a lot of reported coming out of Kenya right now. I'm just going to show you multiple of them. Yes, and some of their activists have been arrested, but the push continues by the Kenya citizen. What you're watching right now is the invasion of what they called the parliament, just like the National Assembly in Nigeria. So what you're about to watch right now is that invasion.
These are the guys that are killing people. These are the guys that are shooting using live bullets from within parliament. They've killed three. There you go, a live bullet. Three down. Live bullet. Yeah.
So these developments are going on as we speak right now in Kenya. There's a lot of development. We're trying to catch up to bring as many of what is happening to many of you back home in Nigeria, and those of you that are outside Nigeria as well, so that you can be, up to speed with those developments. Because we've told you that on this platform, Koikimedia, we bring the world closer to your doorstep. Let me remind us again that whatever is happening in Kenya right now, it is just as much as what we should be expecting in Nigeria if we continue to live in denial. So I have two screens at the bottom, one at the top end corner. That is the network that we've connected with. First Post is the one, and the NTV is a Kenya. And let me just listen to some of what is being said by the one in Kenya. Let me remind you that they might be speaking their language, which we might not literally understand. So I'm going to release the audio and mute my mic so that we can just get the gauge of what is currently happening right now with everything in Kenya. In this latest, I was meant to be at the Kenya embassy today, but because of my tight schedule, I couldn't make it down there. I was invited by Jumoke Oyeleke to join them because they were also having some peaceful gathering. Many of you have to remember that when the Yoruba Nation comes up again, we will need as many of you to be out on the street asking and demanding our right under the international law, which nothing has been done. I'll be telling you what the embassy is, the UK embassy. Yeah, you can. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, you can. Yes. I can tell you that the UK has released a press statement from the embassy in Kenya. Let me remind you that can you slow it a little bit? So many of you need to understand that these are fast, latest development. This program is a very short one, but we will be coming out again because I have, like I say, a very urgent meeting. But let's listen to the news presenter. Like I said, the importance of language is what they are using.
Kudumisha amani, mtazamaji, vile vile kufahamisha kwamba
can see the importance of the language. We could not understand anything that they are saying because Kenya is not like Nigeria, that we were pushed together under one country with different languages, and that is creating a lot of frictions and problems within that shito continent or that shito part of the world known as Nigeria. So I'm going to take you to the one that we might understand what they are saying, because that one is speaking in English. I'm going to allow the advert to go through, but once again, these are fast, latest development that is happening in Kenya, East Africa, as many are now asking, would the same thing happen in Nigeria? It's subject to whether Nigerians are ready or not, but something will lead to something as the food prices continue to go up, the inflation is going up, many Nigerians are struggling to have 3 square meal, there is no health care, many of you are dying very young, and many of you are now involved in drugs. So let's take you now to another network on the top corner on the left, but with an English version this time around. So this is the development as it's happening right down in Kenya as I speak to you right now. This program comes to an end in the next 2-3 minutes, as we will be coming out later on again if time permits. I'm going to give you what the UK are saying, what the world is saying regarding this development. There's a lot of press release, a lot of top individuals are speaking. This is Steve Hank, is economics, says the Kenya Parliament has just erupted in flames as protests against the 2.7 billion tax hike turned violent. The hikes were spurred by the Kenya latest IMF deal, just like we know that the criminal gangs in Nigeria have also been directed by the IMF to push us into much poverty. We would all have to demand what we believe is ours. I've listened to this particular video. Is a protester that was released after lecturing the officer about the right of a protester. Again, that is the Kenya Prime Minister, as we know that many of them are puppet to the West, especially when they have allegiance to Britain. This is a statement from the British High Commission in a joint statement, rather, by ambassadors of High Commissioners in Kenya, and this is what they have to say. They don't have to tell you what to do. You have to do what you have to do as Yoruba people. If you are waiting for them to tell you what to do, you will wait for a very, very long time. Tó bá jẹ́ pé ń dúró de Britain, ń dúró de America, France, Germany, and Canada, Japan, none of them have our interest, but one thing is, they will always come out and make statements when the right appropriate time comes. So this is the joint statement by Ambassador and the High Commissioners on the protest coming out today, the 25th of June, 2024. As friends and partners to Kenya, we note that Kenya Constitution guarantees the right to peaceful protest. The right to peaceful protest. Bear with me. The right to peaceful protest. All actors have the responsibility to respect, uphold, promote, and fulfill the principles of democracy. We know they don't fulfill the principles of democracy in Africa because it's a shithole continent. All actors have the responsibility to respect, uphold, promote, and fulfill the principles of democracy and the rule of law, particularly by ensuring a proportionate security response. We've seen that people have been killed, people have been injured. That is what Africa is all about. So when we come out, we must always prepare for whatever the consequence of what might be the end. But freedom is not going to come free. We are deeply concerned by the violence witnessed in many parts of the country during the recent protest, and especially shocked by the scene witnessed outside the Kenya parliament, that shithole parliament that is under the rule of Britain, just like your Abuja shithole parliament as well. We regret the tragic loss of life and injuries sustained, injured by the use of live fire. We welcome the statement released by the Honorable Chief Justice Martha Koome and are deeply concerned by allegations of adoptions of protesters, just like they did during the EndSARS, as many people are still in the prison as we speak to you right now. Even Shehu Sani confirmed that during the Democracy Day in Abuja, straight into Tinubu's face. And he said to Tinubu, you are the father of the protester. It is time to release them because you also sponsor a lot of protests during the days of the Nadeko when they were fighting the military junta. We welcome the civic engagement by Kenyans, in particular the youth, the Gen Z, in addressing issues of vital public concern. As the Yoruba are also asking for a public concern, nobody's listening until we push to the street. We call for the restraint on all sides and encourage all leaders to find a peaceful solution through constructive dialogue. This is coming from the Canadian High Commission. This is also coming from the Royal Danish Embassy. This is coming from the, stop pushing the table please. This is also coming from the Embassy of Finland, where my Prime Minister Simon Ekpa is based. Embassy of the Federal Republic of Germany, Embassy of Ireland, Embassy of Netherlands, Embassy of the Republic of Estonia. Estonia that is not, remember I told you about Estonia, all these shit small countries that are now telling you that they have embassy in Kenya. Embassy of Norway, Embassy of Sweden, Embassy of Romania, Embassy of Belgium, British High Commission, and the Embassy of the United States of America. These are the ones that have released this statement. And if you're expecting anything to come free, just remember that Julian Assange sacrificed himself for a very long time and he never bowed down because the truth that he was talking about was not something that the West wanted. But right now, Julian Assange flies out of the UK on a $500,000 private jet after being free in the US plane. You see the importance of money. This is what we should have been doing with Oloye Igboho, but because we have left him as if he's an ordinary person right now, Oloye Igboho should be driving or should be flying private jet for his own security and safety. But yes, he still continued to go in the public aircraft. As Julian Assange was being released, he was not taking any chances. He traveled on a $500,000. The question you should ask is, where did that money come from? Ẹ máa sọ pé ẹ ní ìdòwò fún Yorùbá Nation. Ẹ máa sọ pé kò sí owó ká máa lò. Tó bá yá gbogbo àlà máa jẹ breakfast. Àtẹ̀mí tí mo wà ní bíbà àtẹ̀yìntẹ̀ wà nílé ẹ̀yìntẹ̀ wà nílé ní tí máa pọ̀ jù. $500,000 ni wọ́n fi charter private jet fún Julian Assange to make his way back to Australia so that way there will not be any interference. Ibi tó ní kí private jet yẹn máa lọ, ibẹ̀ náà ló máa lọ. But lọ́dọ̀ tiwa, tọ́ba yẹn pa ní ẹ̀fún wa ní £1 million nísìn, tí lè máa sọ pé kí la fẹ́ fi ẹ má bínú, you are not seeing the screen. Let me remove the images right here because I want you to see that properly. That is it. Julian Assange flies out of the United Kingdom to yesterday, I believe. He's still en route on a $500,000 private jet after being free on a US plea deal. Once again, when we are ready, we will all know. But we are not ready yet, but we will continue the discussion. My name is OLAYOMI KOIKI. Enjoy the rest of the afternoon. If I can make it back out later, I will do. But I thought that this is an ongoing development and it is important that we tell you as it is happening. If you're expecting anybody in the diaspora to come down when you are not ready, you will wait for a very long time. Enjoy the rest of the day and bye from this end.
She